growing up here in Waynesville, Ohio, uh, we were sort of secluded, and I became friends with Matthew Willard Carnes, who lives in Archer, Florida, uh, somewhere around 1982. And we began to play together in the field adjacent to the Victorian place before it was developed. And there was a blue Toyota back there that we frequently played around near a large 4-foot galvanized water tile and a little bridge that went over it right there on the Anthony Wayne Trail where they placed the Victorian place, even though it was a historical marked trail. And when I worked at the cemetery in 2000 to 2003, I was asked to be extra careful as I dug a grave by the veterans section for, I believe his name was James Tietmeyer. I know his daughter, Debbie Tietmeyer, works at R&L Trucking, and she may have some information on what the issue was. But Charlie Morgan, the probation officer from Warren County, told me of a secret burial there due to the fact that this traveling black man from Columbus asked for some help and was getting his car fixed by a man named Red Carnes. He did not give me the details of what happened, but he did say he was murdered and that we didn't want to dig that problem up. And that was the only time that he ever told me that was when I was digging the Tietmeyer grave, which is right off Corwin Road, across from Davidson's Meat Processing, and referred to sometimes as Old 73, if that helps. When he made that statement to me, I told him of me and Matt Carnes, the grandson of the mechanic, working or playing in the field and seeing this powdered blue early 1960s Toyota. And when I did, he looked a little taken back, and he left rather abruptly. And then a beige truck pulled up with an older gentleman who looked a lot like Lloyd Jones from Abilene, Texas, who had came up a few different times and had discussions about things. But he told me there was 9,000 volts that ran from where I was to the Charlie Morgan Chapel. And I sort of smarted off and said, "Do you mean the Warren County Trustee Building?" In reference to my father-in-law, who was the president of the board of the cemetery, because I don't like being threatened like that. So he left, and there weren't too many conversations, but the next time he came up was the time that they built the Ambergy Wall in the middle of the Miami Cemetery. And I know that he was associated with the gravel pits in Morrow. And once he sold that gravel pit in Morrow, he invested his money in the storage units that you see that are similar to the Cherokee storage unit in Waynesville, Ohio. But they were dead set on building this wall. And the wall sits on 42. It's sort of a retainer wall that runs from the subway all the way down to Larry Nelson's apartments. And it is, they used really, really nice rock. And so they would take the cemetery backhoe over there at times and use it for this wall. And it was strange to me because it's almost like it's an easement and something that would be covered by the city of, or the village of Waynesville's monies. But I'm not really sure what happened. I do know that because of the issues that I had stemming from being told about this murdered black man and people going around slandering my name, I ended up resigning from the Miami cemetery. And the thing that sort of sparked it off was they told me they didn't have enough money to pay my father, who was elderly and retired from General Motors, or my handicapped brother, who was born with a cleft palate, had speech impediments, and was somewhat of a slower learner, who worked at the Lebanon Raceway part-time. And when they said they couldn't pay them, I sort of wondered how much money the cemetery was out because of the wall that was built on 42. And a good person to ask would be Pat Davidson, because he was the president of the board. You could also ask Marilyn Mahaffey. She's on the board, and she's also the heir to Mahaffey Pies, and her husband Clint Holtz has a memorial over in Corwin, and he was the half owner from AK Steel. You could also ask Richard Gibson, who I believe worked at LexisNexis, who replaced Benny Perky on the cemetery board. Brad Connors was another new member of the cemetery board, and he owns the Connors Funeral Home downtown Waynesville, or Stubbs and Connors Funeral Home. They may have some information also.